Well. Good morning, no, good morning, good evening, West Ham fans. Enter stage left, Danny Kretinsky. Yes, everybody, watching the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Hope you are all having a lovely Tuesday. Bins go out tomorrow, just in case. You might not have the same bin day as me, but my bins go out. Anyway, if you're new and give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. Now, obviously, we've been quite busy today as PUs. I gave my brain dump about the whole situation at the moment. Just my thoughts and just processing what's going on through my head a little bit. And then Anton was busy in the old thumbnails, trying to beat the button in terms of a funny thumbnail. Doing the Street Fighter thing, Moyes v Stein, and that's what it seems to be in terms of my way or the highway. Hammer's headlines: the uninspiring shortlist of managers who could potentially replace David Moyes. I'm sure there's another list somewhere. I'm sure that's not the list. And now, obviously, tonight, 9 o'clock, we've got Alex's TikTok takeover, and he'll be talking about David Moyes. Is time running out, and get your opportunity to come on and give your thoughts. And obviously, it's an interactive show, so you'll be going through your comments and stuff. So make sure you join in for that. Now, an interesting bit of tweetage, I'm sure that's a verb, from young Sean Wheatston, which could put an interesting wrinkle in this whole Steinton versus Moyes, Sullivan versus Steinton. It seems like we just want to have these sort of Mortal Kombat fights. And if anything, maybe Danny Kretinsky could be the big boss, could be the final boss in this discussion. Sean took to Twitter this afternoon saying that, and again, we know Sean's sources, but he said shareholder Danny Kretinsky is rumoured to be unhappy with the way certain elements are run at West Ham. Now, obviously, I'm sure you are aware that Danny is the second highest single shareholder at the club. In terms of how it all breaks down, Sullivan's got 38.8% of the vote and shares. Danny Kretinsky 27%, Gold's 25%, and others 9%, including the likes of Trip Smith, Terry Brown, for example. Now, as it currently stands, Danny Kretinsky doesn't have much sway in terms of voting power on the board. In fact, he is unable to force any changes through, whether they are management, sporting directors, all that type of stuff, without creating an alliance with either David Sullivan or the Gold family. Now, we know the Gold family at the moment are in a process with Rothschilds in terms of selling a percentage of their shares, which equates to about 10% of the entire share. So if they're 25%, they want to sell 10%, leaving them 15%. At the moment, it may they might sell all of them, but at the moment, that's what they're looking to sell. And we know we know that there was, when Danny Kretinsky came on board, there was a three-way agreement between David Gold at the time, late David Gold, David Sullivan, and Daniel Kretinsky in terms of the price. So they, in essence, could sell each other their shares for a set price, and that was agreed then. So, and the fact that they've gone to Rothschild to sell the shares probably means, I would have imagined, that Danny and Sullivan would have had first dibs, maybe, of the shares at the agreed price, maybe, or maybe neither wanted each other to buy the share. I don't know. We don't know. But as I said, it does say that he is apparently unhappy with certain elements. Now, it's been widely believed that it was Kretinsky's insistence for West Ham to bring in, to appoint a director of football, sporting director, Tim Steinton, because thinking that that's the way business is done in football. That's the way modern football is run. You bring in the director, they look after it, not you, David Sullivan. You just sit there as 38%, top shareholder. That's what you do. Leave the footballing world to Tim Steiner. Now, maybe this sort of bickering and what we're doing with Davy Moyes and what Sullivan's been saying in the press and what Steiner's been saying, maybe that's got Kretinsky's back up a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's thinking we need to sort this out. Now, we know he currently has lead ownership or share ownership of Sparta Prague, which could have a conflict coming into the last 16 Europa League round, in the fact that Sparta Prague are in the playoffs at the moment. If they win that, they go into the playoff. They go into the last 16. It's 1 in 8 chance we would get them originally, but Slavia Prague won their group, so Slavia Prague automatically through. It's a 1 in 7 chance now because they can't play each other because they're in the same federation in the last 16. After that, it's anyone can play anyone, but in the last 16, so there is a high chance, there is always a chance that we could play Sparta Prague in the last 16, which would be quite interesting. And obviously, currently there's a thing called MCO, multi-club ownership, sort of directives from UEFA, which stop clubs having two clubs in the same competition having the same owner, pretty much. That's being looked at the moment because many of the sides, potentially next season, Man City could get, if they're not already in Division 2 by then, they could be in the Champions League, and so could Genoa as well, because they're flying high in the La Liga. They're all part of the City group, so that could happen. So that's probably part of the reason why they're trying to sort it out a little bit. Again, favouring those bigger companies who have multiple clubs within their suite, within their group. So that's one thing we'll have to probably think about in about a week, in about a few days' time. But it is quite interesting when you're looking at the shares. Kretinsky's not a million miles away from having having voting rights, which could bring change without needing to have an alliance. He took to Twitter again, Sean, straight after, saying, should Daniel Kretinsky purchase 3 or more % of West Ham, it would trigger a full takeover bid. Where a bidder is interested in shares carrying more or 30% or more of the voting share rights, the bidder must make a mandatory offer in cash at no less than the higher price paid during the preceding 12 months, often referred to as Rule 9 offer. There we go. A Rule 9 waiver is available if agreed by UK takeover panels. There is no indication as yet whether he wishes to increase his sharehold beyond the percentage of 27%. The issue being, as I said, at the moment, he wouldn't be able to have Sparta and West Ham potentially in the same group if he took over full control of West Ham, while still having a leading stake in Sparta Prague. That's the basic That's the basic sort of way it all works. But I find it fascinating. It's another wrinkle to everything. Danny's he's been sort of leaning back, just having a think. He's gone, right, fuck it. Let's try and sort it out. Which would be nice if he did, actually. I think that was always the assumption when Daniel Kretinsky took over or took a 27% percent of West Ham. The assumption for many was that he was going to be, this would start an eventual takeover. However, he is a bit of a silent partner in terms of most of his investments. He owns 5-10% in Sainsbury's. He owns the same in the post office. So small bits of big pies. He sold a big chunk of his French news empire recently, and so there is money to play with. I'm not assuming he's going to take a full takeover, but the fact is he's got Tim Steiner now. That apparently was spearheaded by him. I don't know how much we believe that, but it would probably make sense. Within Sparta Prague, he has Thomas Rositzky. Rositzky has his former Arsenal player as his sporting director there. So that's been there for a while. So he's had that sort of setup already. So it made sense eventually getting your feet under the table and then starting to impart maybe a bit more of a more thought out, more of a modern way of running football. But I just thought it was quite interesting. And as always, we try and bring you anything that sort of creeps up and give you our views. I can't see anything happening with him. Well, I just don't think he's. In all honesty, I don't think he's interested in taking a full takeover. If he gets to a point where he's really pissed off, then he could always dangle that carrot over Sullivan, really, potentially. He could go to, I don't know. I'm just making this up, but he could buy, gold shares. If he buys gold shares, that's it. In the same way that Sullivan could have bought gold shares, but he hasn't. So I just think it's quite interesting to see there's still a lot of pieces being played. It seems really like it's very much a struggle in the boardroom rather than necessarily in the dugout, if that makes sense. We always thought before that that was David Gold was a very obviously before he passed, he was a big advocate of David Moyes. Sullivan, not so much, I believe, at the time, but that might have changed because obviously since then we've had a bit of success, relative success for our history. We know that Baroness Brady apparently is very much keen on keeping Moyes, apparently. It'd be interesting, and by the sounds of it, Tim Steindon is very much. I think you could probably plot them whether they want to keep him or not keep him, and I think it's probably about a stalemate, really, in terms of the guys who will actually make the decision. And maybe it's that linchpin of Kretinsky. He's the one who's sort of like the one in the middle. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But anyway, just sort of bring you a little bit of news, not even news, a little bit of opinion, really, and see what you think about it. I can't see him taking a full takeover at the moment. I just think there's too much uncertainty from a business perspective. And again, I say that because he's not doing it for the love of the game. He'll be doing it to see if he can make some more money. Whether that would him spending that money to get those extra shares, would he make that back? What would be the return on investment? And I just don't think he's got it at the moment, particularly if we're in a situation where we don't get European football next season. The value would still be up there, in the top 20 odd, top 20, 25 of Europe, but we wouldn't have as much income coming through the gates in terms of extra European games, in terms of extra merchandise, in terms of extra commercial opportunities, in terms of extra broadcasting. So your value is probably makes sense to buy it next year if we don't get into Europe, because the value of the club will be less than it is now because we're in Europe. Anyway, my simplistic view. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, Sam. We'll keep the faith, my friends. And don't forget to join Alex at 9 o'clock tonight for his takeover, his TikTok takeover. I will say it properly one day. Still can't say it. Takeover TikTok. No, his TikTok takeover. There we go. Bye-bye.